Welcome to the third installment of TheWrap's Game On Sports series. My name is Kayla Cobb. I'm the senior reporter for TheWrap, and I specialize in TV and creators. And today I'm joined by Lucas Manfredi, who is our TV business reporter. Thanks for taking the time, Lucas.
Thanks, Kayla.
So, the first part of the series, we talked about how we got to this point in sports media rights where it's like worth $29 billion. Then, Lucas, you did a fantastic article outlining which streamers have what rights, which is, I'm sure, going to be vital to any sports fan out here. The third part of the series, we are going to focus on how all of this is impacting consumers. So, first, I'm going to start with who are the major uh, streaming players when it comes to sports rights?
So you've got your legacy media players, and then you've got your tech players, who are probably your main people competing for sports rights. So on the legacy side, you have your Disney, you have NBC Universal slash Comcast, you have Fox, you have Warner Brothers Discovery, um, and then on your tech side, you have Amazon, you have Apple, you have YouTube. And then within that, there's also, smaller players. Roku has some streaming rights to some stuff. The CW obviously has streaming rights, but those are your main people. So all of the major studios and all the major tech players that you can think of.
Yeah, and when we're looking about this, like the increased cost of sports distribution rights, who like really drove that? Like, which league do you think really drove these prices up?
I mean, in terms of company, I would say it's the tech players because
Yeah.
them getting involved just immediately they have more spending power. So because they have more spending power on being able to bid on these rights, the leagues took that as an opportunity. When you're looking at the leagues that are the most valuable, it's going to be your major ones. It's going to be your NFL, your MLB, just because they are the most well known. But the ones that are the most widely watched are obviously going to be the ones that can command those prices. But that's not to say that there aren't completely new leagues that are getting involved. So, like the National Women's Soccer League, the Premier Lacrosse League, there's all of these new leagues that are popping up that are inking these media rights deals. You just saw with Paramount, David Ellison just spent 7.7 billion for the UFC, which is basically the same amount of money that he spent to acquire Paramount in the first place. So you're seeing, a lot of that, a lot of big spending on these sports rights, because as you guys kind of recapped in your story, you and Brian, sports are, you know, the biggest thing that people are watching right now. It's Nielsen will tell you that the sports rights telecasts are the things that are dominating what people are viewing on broadcast cable, and increasingly streaming.
Yeah. And then you've spoken to a lot of these like executives about their sports streaming strategy and how they're thinking about sports. I don't know. How are they thinking about how it applies to the consumer? Because that's the real question. Like, will people actually pay these increased packages?
Well, that's the thing. I think they all hope that they will. But at the same time, they're balancing a lot of things going on right now. So they're balancing the fact that linear TV is declining, but that's where the majority of the profits are that they make right now. So while it's declining, it's still profitable, but they have the interesting challenge of having to maintain that audience as much as they possibly can and squeeze every dollar out. But also, they're trying to get sports fans to move over to their various streaming offerings, and then making those streaming services profitable at the same time. So it's a lot to balance, and unfortunately, there are very few ways that you can make a streaming service profitable. You have to spend on content, and you have to find ways to cut costs. And unfortunately, when you're spending on a lot of these bigger sports rights, these expensive sports rights, that cost gets passed on to consumers in one way or another. So you saw it with Peacock. Peacock raised their prices by $3 recently. Um, Part of that was because they acquired the NBA rights for the fall. They obviously know that it's a headache, and not everybody, they know that consumers have this pain point where they have to go subscribe to four different streaming services to be able to watch something. But at the same time, like, this is the business model, they have to do this, to a certain degree. So it's a tough balance, but at the same time, I think generally right now they probably think that there's even room for more price increases down the road, depending on who your streaming service is. I know that the other day Warner Brothers Discovery's chief financial officer Gunnar Weidenfels was at a conference, and when they were asking him about price increases, he was literally saying that he thinks that the pace is healthy right now, and that it's probably going to keep going up. So who knows how much it's going to get. Consumers are going to push back at some point, but that's also where bundles come in.
Yeah. And that's insane that he thinks that it could still go up. And I say insane just because he's probably right in some regards. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
depending on which service it is. If you're a Netflix, you have more people watching you, so yes, you probably can get away with it a little bit more. But it depends on the service. It depends on how much content you offer to begin with, um, because you want to make sure that you're giving consumers the best bang for their buck. At the same time, if you look at something that just launched, like Fox One, or ESPN's direct consumer app, they priced very specifically that they don't want to cannibalize their linear TV audience. They want to go towards the people who have never had cable, who have never been a part of it, the quote unquote cord nevers. So it all depends with pricing on what you're offering and who you're targeting, because even now they're also competing with free services. You saw Tubi put the Super Bowl on there. So not to say that Tubi will have tons and tons of sports content, but Fox can experiment with that. So there's all different options out there. Some are obviously subscription and paid, but like I said, they're competing with each other, free ad supported streaming and pay TV.
Yeah. I mean, and the NFL is going to have its first game of the season on YouTube. That's going to be free to watch for everyone, um, which is, notable. It's notable that two major, well, yeah, it's an opener. So two major NFL games have been free to watch on streaming.
Yep,
Um,
and these leagues want to be on streaming. They want to expand their access. When Warner Brothers Discovery lost the rights to the NBA, one of the big reasons was because they wanted to expand on streaming more so than they were able to. They wanted to partner with an Amazon. They wanted to they wanted to be with Disney. They wanted NBC Universal and Peacock. They wanted all of that. So it's we're seeing everything moving more and more towards streaming.
yeah. During my reporting for this article, I spoke to Sean Cunningham, who's the CEO and founder of Video Advertising Bureau, and he said something that I thought was really smart, which is that when it comes to sports fans, it's an irrational attachment. They have an irrational attachment to what they love, which are their teams. And with that comes an irrational commitment. So, you're going to be following. I'm a Clemson Tiger fan. I have gone with them when they were awful. And then I'm thrilled when they win, national championships. But it is rational. It is like a deep loyalty and a deep sort of brand loyalty that you really can't buy. It's a really really powerful thing, but that's for your diehards. The more I did reporting on this piece, and I'm sure you saw the same, it's the casual sports fans who are kind of like in danger of being shaken out. So I'm wondering, how are like bundling options going to change the casual sports fans' interest?
Well, I think it goes back to what we were talking about a little bit before, with the fact that like all of these streaming services, there's tons of them. So for the consumer, it's just like subscribing to four services is insane to be able to watch everything that they want to watch. So they want to push, I think they want to push people towards bundles as much as they possibly can. You saw it when ESPN launched and Fox One launched. Immediately they did a bundle together. ESPN is also going to be with NFL Premium. So there's that. Then there's Comcast has Stream Saver, which is Netflix, Peacock, and Apple TV Plus. So you're gonna see more of these bundles emerge. You're going to see more people partner with each other, especially as all of these sports rights shift. Because, one of the things with my story was listing out not only who has the rights, but how long do they have these rights. Most of these
Mm,
rights are locked up for the next couple of years. But, things are going to start to change probably as we get closer to the 2030s. Um, where some of these rights are going to shift around. So you're probably going to see people do different types of bundles in order to appeal to consumers. And the other problem too is that even with bundles, you still have to be able to log into your Peacock separately, log into your Prime Video separately. So, people are that's another pain point where people are gonna want, eventually consumers are gonna want one place where you can watch everything, one single interface where you can log in through one login, where you pay through one bill every single month, as opposed to having to go to all of these different streaming services, keep track of your passwords, keep track of all of your billing information. But bundling is that step. It's the step to kind of recreate and replicate what the cable bundle was for digital.
it's great that we're just going back to cable. Just all this, and now we're back at cable, basically.
Yep. We
But
we started as streaming was no ads,
yeah,
and now we're back to ad supported streaming now, and sports is moving over there, and everything is basically just that's what's happening. Is pay TV is becoming cable, or
yeah.
streaming is becoming pay TV.
And I mean, to your point, everyone I spoke to, I'd raise like, what's the price point where people are sick of it? And people are like, well, the price isn't really the issue. It's discoverability. It's people getting frustrated, like not being able to find their games. And like,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, you know, if you look at all of the streaming services right now that are out there, like if you're gonna spend your money to say you're a crazy person who's gonna take buy all of these streaming services, you're spending close to, if not more than what you're paying for pay TV, which is
yeah,
insane that it's even gotten to that point. But it's crazy how much it's gotten to. But at the same time, I think also going back to even what the media companies think about all of this, they're spending on these sports rights, and I don't think they think that the sports rights increases are any less crazy than we do. I mean, Jimmy Pitaro said it the other day, where he was asked about sports rights costs, and he said, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't see it being sustainable. I talked to another former Fox Sports executive, named Patrick Crakes, and he said the same thing, that it's getting crazy how much these sports rights costs are, but at the same time, how much higher can it realistically get? The everything is very high, but if you're the NFL, sure, you probably can raise it. You can probably get even more money when all of that ends up coming up for renegotiation. But if you're someone who's smaller, are you really going to have the same ability? Who knows? Because back to the whole conversation about streaming being making sure streaming is profitable. Like right now, Peacock is not profitable. It is the
No.
only major streamer that is still not profitable. So all of these streaming services at the same time, as much as they do want to get all of the sports rights, they acknowledge that they can't have everything. And it's all a balance.
Yeah, and on the flip side, like it's easy to pick on the NFL because they're the biggest player in the game in America. Um, but like they had an ESPN Plus exclusive game, a Seahawks game, and they backed out and they're like, no, this is actually going to ESPN proper because like to make sure more people can watch it. And they do have their Thursday night football package with Prime Video and then their Netflix games. But overall, like you can catch most of their games with some like, if you pick up a pair of rabbit ears, like a digital antenna, like, so they have been really, really, they do seem more interested in having a broader audience see the games versus
Yeah.
like platform exclusivity, which
And I
is
mean, all of
interesting.
them, yeah, all of
Yeah.
them want that. All of these
Yeah.
leagues want to be in front of as many eyeballs as they possibly can. And it's interesting because with the NFL, one interesting thing about their sports rights is they have an opt-out clause.
Yeah.
So basically, in a nutshell, what the opt-out clause is starting in 2029, they have the option of essentially renegotiating with all of their current media partners. Um, and, they could drop people, they could keep people, but change the amount of games they have. And I think, the NFL themselves have said that they value having that option, that they're not sure if they're going to use that option. But I think, generally the consensus out there is most people think that there will be some sort of changing there. Whether or not they do it, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's fair to say that they probably will, and they're
Yeah.
probably going to want to renegotiate every deal to have more stuff on streaming than they currently do.
Especially since like the NFL has been very transparent about wanting to go more international. They want a more international fan base, and you see just their recent bets. The YouTube game, the Netflix games, like they are way back when with Prime Video, they're partnering with streamers who will give them a global audience versus like smaller, more localized platforms.
Yeah. I mean, but that's also to not to say they do want to be on the smaller platforms. So I would say, like
Of
an
course, yeah.
example, we were talking about people who are involved in bidding for sports rights. There's also another platform that I left out, which was Fubo. Obviously, they are much smaller, than the Disneys and the Netflixes of the world. But leagues want to be on even Fubo. They want to be on all of anything that is out there, anything that they know where people will tune in some capacity. But to the same degree, I think the leagues still value being on broadcasting cable. Like they want to have the best of both worlds. They want to be on absolutely everything.
Yeah, and to go back to the consumer question of it all, there is a big value add in having straight sports on streaming. Like I was at a wedding last weekend, and my friends wanted to catch the FSU game, and like we're in a corner watching it on the phone. And I mean, that sounds super disrespectful, but like everyone was very invested in this game. Like they go and like talk to the bride and they run over and they're like, how's like FSU doing? And then the bride and groom would be like, how did they beat Bama? Yeah. Is it happening? And they did
They
beat Bama. It was phenomenal.
they cared more
But
about what was happening in the game at that point.
honestly, yeah, it was there was a moment where it was equal. Like both things were equal priorities for the event. But like that sort of mobility is something that like only streaming allows for. And I do think that the kind of technology and the innovations that streaming like lends itself to are a big value add for sports fans.
Yeah, and and that's the other thing too. Something interesting when Fox One launched is they are giving you the option to record. So when you go in and you watch a game on Fox One, you can record the game and save it for later if you can't watch it immediately. You know,
That's cool.
all of these different tech features are things that streamers are going to add because they want you to not only be able to watch the game, but they want to give you all of these different things, even in just short, digestible clips. So, like, they're going to do, I think Peacock was doing it during the Olympics, and ESPN is going to do it where they're going to do highlight reels. So, you're going to be able to get a quick recap of something. I know ESPN and Fox One are also going to lean into short form. So, similar to watching content on TikTok, you're going to be able to scroll through and get, you get highlights that way. So there's going to be a push to add more of these kind of bells and whistles tech features, to get people to subscribe to these services. And if you're a younger viewer who maybe doesn't have not the attention well not the attention span, but if you're somebody who wants to just get straight to the point, you're going to see things more even in short digestible clips as opposed to long form, and you'll have the optionality on streaming to be able to do that. You can go watch it live, you can watch it after the fact like you used to be able to do, or you can just watch it short form.
Yeah, no, that's a great option for sports fans. Like I said, I'm a Clemson fan. I will watch a full Clemson game and be thrilled. But I'm also a bit of a Georgia fan just because of my mom. But I don't want to watch a Georgia game generally. Like if they're really good, I'll watch it. But I am invested in how they do, and I would like to see it. So like those little snippets, like that's helpful for me just as a human.
Yeah,
Um,
and even if you don't want to watch it, you can get a recap from ESPN that'll, like, if your parents obviously have a specific team and they subscribe to ESPN, like ESPN is using AI so that you can get a recap, but it'll be recaps for the specific teams that you care about. So
I like that.
when you log in for the first time, you say, I like X, Y, and Z teams from baseball, basketball, soccer, whatever. And then, from then on, you will get updates on your specific team as opposed to all of the teams that are out there. And you can change it and you can customize it.
That is like a very cool part of this era of sports rights is like that is for sure a value add. Just like I'm going through a list of people in my head, like friends who I would monitor their, specific teams just so I could like check in with them and be like, oh, like how did Mizzou? I know how Mizzou did. How are you doing after that like win or whatever? So it is really cool to see how these streamers are actually adding to the consumer experience.
And that goes back to what we were talking about pricing and having bang for your buck. I mean, they're putting in all of these flashy tech updates so that, again, this are different things you can do that'll give you your bang for your buck. Another thing that ESPN was talking about that they're going to do is while you're watching the game, you can shop for merchandise for that team while you're watching the game. So they're going to put a QR code. So you scan the QR code on your phone, and then you can buy a jersey while you're watching your favorite football team play. You know,
Could for sure do that.
if you want to get your Chiefs jersey, you can do that while you're watching ESPN. To the same degree, while you're watching ESPN, they're also going to add in sports betting. So if you want to be able to sports bet, you still have to log in separately to your ESPN bet account, but you will be able to bet on games. You'll be able to see live odds. So it's all of those types of things that they want to use to get people in. Um, and you know, having those features on there, I'm sure are another thing that's going to make these services more expensive, and further reason that we may see them increase prices over time.
Yeah. Um, Lucas, I want to be respectful of your time. I know you're really busy. Is there anything you think we haven't covered that in this like equation?
I think, I think we covered everything. I would just say again, it's very difficult right now for consumers generally, but you know, like we said before, we're probably gonna see a return to the days of cable, um, where you know every everything hopefully will eventually be in one place again, so that you don't have to pay for a million things. Um, but for now, it's going to be painful. You're going to have to subscribe to multiple services to watch all of your favorite games for now, and it's not a great time to have to be able to keep up with who you know who has which rights. But at least for the next few years, it's pretty everything will for now at least be in one spot. There's no major changes happening probably until I think 2027 with the NHL. So you know, for now, people can rest assured that you know all of the sports are going to stay where they are at least for the time being.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to end it. Everything kind of sucks a little bit now, but it might get better. So,
Yeah, it can only go up hopefully.
thanks so much for taking the time, Lucas. I appreciate it. And yeah,
Thanks for having me.
tune in for part 4.